In this lesson, we'll learn how to set and get variables in Lua. I'll be just using the terminal in Corona, and so you'll want to make sure that when you boot Corona, you boot the Corona terminal. The first kind of variable that we can create is a global variable. This is a variable that's accessible throughout the entire application regardless of the file. So I'll create a variable called foo and set it equal to a string called foo. This variable foo is accessible everywhere in the application. As a result, it will perform a bit slower. You can also create a local variable by using the local keyword. And here I'll create a variable called bar and set that equal to a string called bar. Here, this bar variable is only accessible to this particular Lua context, which is defined by this Lua document. I can't access it if I were to use a require statement with another document, for example. And so as a result, local variables perform much faster than global variables. It doesn't mean that we can't use global variables. Indeed, we can. Every single lesson features two global variables, _w and _h, which is set to the visible width and height of the screen. But we'll use local variables most of the time because they are faster and will give us better performance. We can combine two variables together, here two strings, by doing the following. We'll create a new local variable called foobar. Notice that the B is capital. This particular style of naming is called camel case because you can sort of see the hump where the B is. We'll set this equal to the result of combining both foo and bar. And here we're doing what's called concatenation. That's the two dots. In other languages, this is accomplished through a single dot or a plus. But in Lua, if you want to combine two strings, you use two dots. Now we can print the result to the terminal by using the print command. And what this will end up printing is foobar. So we'll go to the simulator and take a look at the terminal. And there it is. We can work with numbers, and to do this, we'll create a local variable called 1 and set it equal to the number 1. Then we'll create a local variable called 2 and set it equal to the number 2. Finally, we'll create a local variable called 3 and perform some arithmetic by doing 1 plus 2. Now this won't give us the string 1, 2, it'll give us the number 3. And we'll print that. Go to the simulator and we'll check out the terminal, and there is the number 3. So what happens if we try to combine strings and numbers? Well, we'll create a local variable called fooness. And we'll set that equal to foobar and 3 combined with concatenation. Then we'll print fooness. So here, theoretically, I think we should get foobar and then the number 3. Well, let's see. And there you have foobar and the number 3. Okay, well, what happens if we tried to do this with addition? So we'll set local barness equals foobar plus 3. Print barness. And here we get an error. Let's take a look at it. So the error says that we can't perform arithmetic on foobar, which is a string. So in Lua, you can't perform arithmetic on strings. Seems pretty obvious. So you'll want to be very mindful of what kinds of data your variables are. Lastly, there's something I'll do throughout this entire title. I'll use semicolons to end lines. I want to point out that this is absolutely not necessary for Lua. Instead, it's force of habit due to dealing with lots of programming languages that require semicolons, and so I feel very comfortable seeing them at the end of lines. Every single semicolon you see on the screen here is not required at all. So we could do this. Local foo equals, then we'll set it to equal to a string and not put the semicolon, and that will be just fine. And let me take out this previous declaration because it will declare an error. And there's no errors, everything is okay. Lastly, when you're done with your variables and you're no longer using them, it's good to nil them out so that way they can be garbage collected. So here we're setting foo equal to nil, and the garbage collector knows that that variable is no longer used, so it can get rid of it. Also, it's worth pointing out that at line 19, when I declared the local variable foo, that did wipe out the global variable at line 1. And at line 21, I don't need to use the local keyword again because I'm not defining the variable. It's already been defined, and I can then use it. This ends our lesson on setting and getting variables in Lua.